my computer. Roll call, Randy?
I never even, before this, I didn't get up with
Okay, Trustee LaRue,
it.
Here.
Trustee Wiegand,
Here.
Trustee Everson,
Here.
Trustee Marks,
Present.
Treasurer Johnson,
Here.
Supervisor Durant is here, and Clerk Ratard is here.
Great.
Staff present is just Manager Gerard,
Running copies, he was running copies.
yeah, Superintendent Page will be here momentarily.
Okay. This is a budget work session for the Marquette Township Board. Today's Friday, October 12th, 2018. And our policy discussion today is Public Works Budget 2019. So, is there anything you want to start with, Randy, or wait for
Well, I
Kirk?
guess,
We
we've
can
got
start with questions.
several budgets under Public Works, and I would suspect that there's not probably a whole lot of questions or concerns with stormwater or Metro Fund or solid waste. Those usually don't generate any questions unless you do have questions. They're direct cost and revenue type budgets. Usually it's the wastewater and water that we spend a fair amount of time discussing with regard to rationale, background, and general questions. Anything on those three, stormwater, solid waste, or Metro Fund?
Is there anything planned on stormwater
In regards to,
in 19?
most of the stormwater is for development at this point. From the standpoint of municipal stormwater, no, we haven't even talked about municipal stormwater in terms of potential for sewers or whatever. The construction and maintenance of ditches for stormwater falls with the road commission. And I do have concerns that they are allowing for residential developers to put driveways in and not put culverts. They're not enforcing that. They're also not enforcing folks that have filled in the ditches around their property, which is causing us some of the issues that we're having with flooding yards. But, I mean, but that's up to the road commission to address that. The drain commissioner, we've had conversation with the drain commissioner regarding the movement of water within the Badger drainage district that he basically advises he really doesn't have any money to do anything with, other than to enforce the regulations that are in place. So from the standpoint of expanding our current drainage capability, I really don't see anything on the near horizon. Our terrain is difficult for us from the standpoint of containing it. We pretty much rely on ditches and gravity. Right now, the ground is so saturated right now, water's just pooling.
Did he sell that land where the car wash is? And that was all land that they owned, and they were leasing it out, renting it out here. And that money was supposed to be used for maintaining the Badger Creek area and that.
The drain commissioner?
Yeah.
That I don't know about. I don't know what the status of that is. I know that he's pretty heavily protecting the detention basin that's there at the corner.
Yeah.
Warner and Commerce. I don't know the details of what there might be with the gas station. I know there have been some inquiries.
No, not for the gas station, but next to it is the car wash.
Oh, okay.
That property was supposed to have been, and I'm going back a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
They retained that and they were renting out, leasing it out to that company. So I don't know if they sold it or not, because that was using some of that dollars coming in for maintaining the Badger Creek area. And that too.
I do not know about it. Don't have any background on that or any knowledge of it.
Okay.
There's the pipe part of the drain goes underneath that property. So, they have access to that. As far as I know, there's no surface easement, just for that area. then the ditching along the back, that's part of the drain, but that's within the right of way.
Okay.
How much?
Why doesn't he have any money? He's had money in the past, and Mike and I got into it this summer too about Badger Creek and not wanting, he said he didn't have the money to continue to dredge that pond out that we had a verbal agreement to put in for catching sediment off the highway. And all of a sudden he didn't have any money, but through the proper channels, I talked to a few people and he found the money. So,
Well, how
That
much?
I don't know. See, went back to the county board and got an allocation, or I have no idea. I don't know. The only thing I know is conversations I've had with him and with the road commissioner regarding how do we maintain the size of the roadways now that we've fixed them all, basically. How do we get back the ditches and how do we get back the actual drainage control? Neither of which had any answers.
for what reason did the county decide not to put culverts and driveways and ditches, or culvert the whole front yard?
I think they're simply not enforcing their own ordinance. Their ordinance requires construction of the driveway to be culverted, and it also requires ditching for stormwater management, for just general runoff management. But people routinely fill the ditches in to extend their yard, and there just doesn't seem to be any ability, let me put it that way, ability on behalf of the road commission to deal with that. You'll hear the same thing that you hear all the time. We don't have staff, we don't have money. A classic example is the corner of Fair and Vanderbilt. Washed away, fixed it, didn't pave it, it's washed away again. So they gotta come back and redo it. I just called them yesterday and said, I drove over it and I can barely get through there with my truck. That's a highly used road, both of those are. So, I don't know what they're doing. It just doesn't seem logical that they would have done that in the last major rainstorm and then not finished it, waiting for this last week.
We can ask them
Wash the
next
surface
week,
away again.
whenever we're going to meet with them, remember? It's 23rd, I think, or something.
Yeah, it don't make any difference, too late now.
No, but I mean,
Gotta
we
go
just
back
had
and
this
do
up.
their job.
I've got to go back in and re-gravel it, and it's still not paved.
Who enforces that? Who enforces the culverts? Who enforces the ditches? Is it the drain commissioner, or is it the county?
Well, the drain commissioner is an independently elected official, and I'm not sure who the drain commissioner actually reports to. It's not the board. It's just like the road commission is an independent political entity from the county board, and the county board doesn't give them any money. It doesn't manage their budget. All it does is appoints to their board, I think, 2 members. I think the county board appoints 2 members to the board.
The county board approves the budget for the drain commissioner, and they somewhat oversee them.
He's an elected official, so it's...
I know, but
Yeah,
if
they
he
have the
wants
power.
his budget,
Well, they have the power to, I think they have the power to control some of the funds, but if it comes from the drainage district and from other entities, I don't think they control that. It's like the courts, it's like the sheriff's department. They always say that they can control it, but they don't.
well, that's again what Mike had led me to believe, was he was his own boss, and in which he is, because he's elected, and basically a team of one. But when I got a hold of DePietro in my district, and Billy Nardine, and especially DeRocher, it was done within 24 hours.
Yeah, I'm sure they put some political heat on them. They're all Democrats. I'm sure they put some political heat on him, but I don't know that they can direct him to do anything. I think he has his own statute. He's an independently elected official.
What can we use our money for, the stormwater funds that we've saved?
Well, that's for our I'll let Kirk answer that, but it's for the developers to ensure that they're controlling their runoff and not having it impact other people's properties.
So that's there in case they don't, I know they have to
Well, see, the thing is, we
do
don't
the
have
deposit and stuff.
a utility. So basically, we get no revenue into that fund. So the only revenue we get is basically $500 for a permit. So that, you know, I can't remember what I budgeted, but it might be something like $1,500.
Not very much.
Right. And technically, out of that, we're supposed to pay not only consultants' costs and the other costs, but our own costs, which I haven't been doing. If I did, basically, we'd be in the hole. So basically, if you want to do anything about drainage, you basically have to go through the county and have like a joint project. So either you or the counties are going to have to come up with some money.
That means us.
Well,
That's at least
whatever.
Well, and that's what Dan was saying, you know, the drain commissioner is not being real effective, when we put it that way.
Well, you look at the agency we're dealing with. The drain commissioner has no authority. I mean, he got authority, but no answers to nobody. The county road commission reports to nobody because the board don't control him. He's told that he can do anything he wants, and the board don't interfere with him. You know, and it just.
Well, I guess
when we had our road project, if the county would have gotten involved in it, maybe it could have helped us out a lot. You know, but they just sat back. You know, we don't have no money, we don't have no employees.
Politics.
You know, why don't we just get rid of the damn thing?
Well, it's politics. What they're doing is trying to put pressure on the legislature to change the formula for funding, so.
What you have to accept, it's a responsibility of convenience. That's all it is.
Well, that's the main reason that we went forward with our millage and, you know, did the roads. But now the issue is how long are those roads going to last if there's no drainage control and if there's no real repair outside of the pavement. You know, and that's what we're seeing now. Is we're seeing, you know, the Fair Avenue in Van Boom was a washout of their culvert that was subsurface. It had nothing to do with the new road repair. They had improperly sized culverts that washed away underneath the road, and then the road collapsed.
And you got a couple more out there that's cracked right on top. You know, it just makes you mad that we spend our good money for their, you know, I don't know.
Well,
Incompetence, I hate
we can push this as far as you want, you know, if we have a meeting with them next week and we don't like what we hear, then we go to the county. If we don't like what we hear there, we go to the next step. We're like, we're a customer. So, you know, at some point this has to stop where they have no accountability.
Well, I would think where the accountability would come is that they, by statute, are our road utility. I mean, that's what they are. They're the township's road utility, and we pay 60% of their costs. You know, the cost when they do work in the township. Well, we paid the full cost for the road work that we did, and I would think that the argument you would have is, since we did that work on their behalf, they're obligated to do their maintenance, which is to ensure that the roadsides don't wash away. It means they got to get going on the ditches, and they got to get going on those residents that have not installed culverts, and have them install them at their own cost. But I've had that conversation with the road commission a number of times, and they just aren't doing it. They're just not doing it. You know, and that's a failure on their part, because it's their ordinance that says you have to install culverts and driveways. If you're interrupting the drainage flow, which you do when you build your driveway up, it's supposed to be a culvert. And then they're supposed to be maintaining those culverts once they're installed. But we all know they're not.
Do we keep a copy of their ordinance on file, or do we just need to get online and find out what it is?
It's a public ordinance.
I didn't know if we had it somewhere here.
Well, I think it's a state public act. It's not necessarily an ordinance, it's a state public act that designates how they get paid, designates what their responsibilities are.
But I'd just like to ask them a question. Do they understand, do they know how to correct some of these things? You know, because they're correcting the same thing time and a good example, every time it rains, I go down over on Forked Road. You know, they do something and then you come back, they have to do it again. You go over here on Fair Avenue, you can go on Center Street, it's the same damn problem.
Here's the answer you will get. The answer you will get is when they work on the federal system, they get fully reimbursed 100%. When they work on the state system, the M's, they get reimbursed 80%. When they work on the township roads, they get 60%. So where are they going to spend their time? Whether they get 100% reimbursement or 80%, because they don't have the staff or the equipment or the time or the budget to do the
But
work.
when they're doing that job right, they're not doing that right, so I really understand, I wonder if they know what to do, how to patch it the right way,
Well, yeah, I mean,
you know?
but the city's doing the same thing. I mean, the city has roads that are falling apart, they've got their own infrastructure, and you see them out, instead of fixing roads, you see them out with that stupid snorkel thing blowing tar and gravel into holes in the ground and cracks instead of fixing them. And they do it every other day. They put that truck back out there and they do it again, and it's just,
They have a pothole full of water, they throw the blacktop in and back and forth,
you know,
next,
blacktop, it's just regrind.
whatever it is.
Yeah, it's just, you know, and let it pack down by traffic. Well, the third truck or third car that goes through pushes it out of the hole, and it's back again.
But we owe the residents of this township for, you know, paying the extra money to get them fixed. We owe them something, that we have to do something with the road commission to get something done.
Yeah, the only entity, road entity that I'm aware of, that actually fixes things the way they're supposed to be fixed is Farner. And you see them going around fixing potholes with the infrared pad that they put down, they heat it, they fix it, they heat it again. I mean, you know, you fix a pothole by filling it and rolling it with hot mix and rolling it with a roller.
But that's the way they used
And
to
undercut
fix
it.
it.
You know, and you have to undercut it, so you've got something in there to hold the patch in.
Well, let's save this discussion for them.
Yeah, but I
Next
mean, you're gonna hear the same thing you always hear.
18th.
Where the engineers, you know, we're doing it the efficient way. And I find it hard to believe that it's efficient to keep doing cold patch on US 41 every day with a crew, 2 on the truck, a truck following behind, or 2 with the sign for
4
caution.
o'clock.
So you got 4 people in 2 vehicles doing cold patch.
When are we gonna meet with them, Lynn?
18th.
Of what?
Next week.
This month, next month.
What time is that?
Ray Roberts didn't remember either. He said he's not sure. We
But
confirmed it in July.
I think that's our biggest road issue throughout the township is controlling the water, controlling the runoff, drainage. That's our biggest issue. That's what's already eating away, eroding away the sides of the brand new roads. The curbing helps, the road curbing helps, but it's not here, because the water's still pooling in people's yards, like you've heard.
I'm still not real clear what we're why we're keeping this money and what we're supposed to do with it, what we're allowed to do with it.
Well, the money is there to cover our expenses. When developers come forward with a stormwater plan, we hire an engineer to go and evaluate it.
Okay.
And that's what that's for. It's not like the city where we're building up a fund to do infrastructure.
Yeah, because they've got money coming in.
Yeah, well, they have huge amounts of money coming in, and they just raised it 25%. But that money is going in for infrastructure improvement and for extension of their stormwater utility, which they have. They have a system in the ground. We don't. What our funds are used for is, as Kirk mentioned, to offset our costs of monitoring and maintaining what we're requiring developers to construct.
But he's saying that we must be using other funds for it, because
Well,
if
he's
we
using some
were,
of his funds, because there's not enough coming in.
I'm just not taking it out of that. Yeah, fine.
If we take the money, if we do it ourselves, do we get all the money that they're getting for it? How do we get that money?
Well, it comes in. It comes in here, it goes into the stormwater fund, but then it's...
What money are you talking
For
about?
roads and everything?
I asked the
And we
road.
do our own repairs.
Oh, roads.
Well,
we don't get
apparently
anything
I
for
did
roads.
too.
They do, but if we have it over, do we get that money?
Well, yeah, but it's not enough
I know.
to run a system, you know, and that's what they're arguing. What they're arguing is the formula needs to be changed, because with lower volume of sales and the same amount of money of miles being driven, the formula is not keeping them whole, basically, as they go forward with their operating funds, that they're going backwards. Which I agree they are, but that,
but why do we have $121,000 sitting there
Sitting where?
in the stormwater fund?
You get 121,000.
What can we do? Why are we keeping that? It either needs to go for what it's supposed to be, or work with the drain commissioner and spend it and do something, or put it in the general fund and pay the bills. Why would we be paying it
Well,
out
it's
of your
not on the
budget?
general fund, I can.
Well, your general fund. I mean, I don't understand why it's sitting there.
enterprise fund, for sure.
Where, we just received $5,000 and we just spent $768. And if that's for engineering and stuff,
Oh,
we
the
don't need it.
5,000? Oh, that's, we don't get $5,000, we get, they make a deposit for $5,000.
Right. I know that, and then we pay the stuff out of that. But why do we need 121,000 sitting there?
That happens to be the balance, is that what you're saying? I don't have that one in front of me.
It's in the-
I got last month.
I got the treasurer's, current treasurer's report. You want to see it?
No. Yeah, should have copies for it.
No, I told him.
I'll get copies. You want copies? I'll get copies.
Well, if you're talking about something.
It's in the last packet. Well, we started talking about this, and he said that he's taking the money out of his accounts. And I knew we had this in here, so I pulled it up. This is the last packet that had the financials in it.
Right.
This one.
Which I have a copy of.
If I understand the whole stormwater system correctly, when a developer comes in to do a project, he pays his fees, and he puts money on deposit.
Yep.
And any work that Public Works does, whether it be monitoring or reviewing or anything else, comes out of his deposit. And when that money's gone, he has to bring more money in.
Right, right.
So,
Or if it doesn't take the money, he gets a refund.
right, but there's no,
Right, the only revenues that we get, like I say, is in addition to that deposit, they pay a $500 fee. So
Right,
they-
but,
For every project, we get $500.
so I don't understand where the money's coming and going out of the stormwater fund, because the developers put it in and the developers use it up as they go along, and what they
That's why
don't use,
get
they
their
get
money
back.
Right,
That's why they
so
get their money back.
why do we have 121,000 sitting there?
It's just
It's
sitting
not
there.
making sense.
I mean, if you want to get rid of that 121,000, you should pay back the wastewater fund, that's where it came from. Over a period of time, years ago. You can certainly do a project if you want, but, you know, again,
That's just it. You're
we
telling
don't
me.
have a utility in the stormwater. okay? You have to-
So the $120-some thousand got there in a transfer from the wastewater fund?
Correct, yes.
And it's just been sitting there all these
For,
years.
and why did we transfer it? To get the fund
Well,
started?
initially, we actually had a study done, a master plan, and initially, we were going to have a utility. Okay, but then, once we got into it, you know, all we did was actually end up with an ordinance, because a utility is kind of a, it can be done, but, you know, if you're starting from scratch today, you're gonna need a lot more than $120,000.
Right, and we'd have to add it on the bills and charge a fee,
Correct,
right,
yeah.
like the city does.
So what the ordinance was, like I said, we were just trying to manage the stormwater ordinance.
So if the
Stormwater
$120-some thousand
management
was
in the
used
town.
as startup money to get the stormwater going,
Yeah.
and we have some left, why doesn't it just go back to the wastewater?
Right, or if we're gonna use it and proceed and do something with it, then obviously we wanna leave it there and have it build up, but then we should contribute to it. It doesn't make sense to
How
just
do you
sit there.
take money out of a wastewater enterprise fund and put it over the stormwater fund? How's that work?
We've done loans and back and forth.
But the
I don't think that
objective of
It's
the
still
loan
an
is that we
enterprise
pay it
fund.
back.
Yeah, and we pay interest too.
When did that happen?
No, we're not paying interest on that.
We're not on this one?
Quite a few years, I can't remember exactly. Must have been early 2000s.
Yeah, there's been, I think it was before I came. There's been discussion for years about controlling stormwater and putting a system in, but the boards have never done anything other than adopt the ordinance. They've never gone beyond that. The adoption of the ordinance required the transfer.
Okay, we're gonna talk about this at a different meeting.
Move on.
Yeah. This is crazy.
Well, it is budget related, I mean,
It is, but it's not something we can decide right now. We need to
Right.
really talk about what's gonna happen with the rest of your monies.
Well, yeah, I mean, the answer to the question is if the township has the intention of creating a stormwater utility, then
Right.
you need that money in there. If
Exactly.
the township is not going to do a utility, then it needs to go back to the wastewater fund.
Exactly. And we can debate that later.
Yeah.
So we can get through this.
I'm saying we don't want a stormwater utility.
It doesn't matter to me, but we need to do one or the other.
But
Well,
all the stormwater fund is composed of right now is when a developer comes in.
No,
to
it's
do-
not all.
Current, and we're not talking about the fund balance that you're talking about there.
There's
It's
still
just looking at-
78,000 in the checking
I
account.
understand that, but the whole stormwater fund right now, or the whole stormwater utility right now, consists of a developer coming in to do a job, and he has to submit plans for sediment basins and all that, and he pays for all
I
that.
get that. It's an in and out.
So
Right.
Yeah.
if we're gonna have a stormwater fund, it's gonna be in the tune of, what, $10 million or so?
About that, it's just gonna be huge.
Yeah.
So does the $120-some thousand really make a difference?
If
it's
we
there?
want to pursue that, yes, we need to start saving for that, and then we probably need to fund
But we
it.
Well, it's
can't
gonna take
save
more than
for it
saving,
with
yeah.
borrowed funds. We borrowed the funds out of
That's
the
what I'm saying.
wastewater.
We have to straighten this out, get it fixed right, either put the money back where it came from, probably with interest, and get us down to maybe, what, $5,000 as a floater to balance out, the changeover, whatever, a number, and move on. Or if we want to actually pursue this, then we start funding it and say, okay, let's build a stormwater system, one or the other.
But it doesn't even have to be one or the other. We should, if we borrowed money from wastewater and it got set
Exactly.
in there, we should put it back.
Yeah,
If we want to create a stormwater fund, then we should come up with a millions and a
Yep.
mechanism to
And a
create a
plan, yep.
stormwater fund, and it's going to take you 20 years to collect $10 million.
Well, that's what I looked at. Well, initially, in terms of utility, what we were looking at was, somebody asked a question, I think it was Max Healy, why don't we have like a very large detention basin,
Detention basin.
to serve, an area? Well, then we got back to, we've already got the county, so basically we still have to be dealing with the county, or completely break away from the county and like do it ourselves. So, and plus, the regulations are already changing to make it harder to do that, And it just seemed in our situation where, we had a lot of development, and that's another reason we looked at what to do. All the development was occurring outside the drain districts, the established drain districts. So basically, we ended up, part of the money actually went for, even before the master plan, we did some mapping of there were like 3 other drain districts west of, here and west. So, which ended up being used by the conservation district, in some of their publications, so.
And I guess the point I'm trying to make is if there's not a compelling reason for that money to sit there, then the logical place for it to go is back to wastewater, and that is part of the budget.
yeah.
So we shouldn't just pass it on, we should decide what we're going to do.
Oh, because you want to talk about it today. I think the philosophy of whether or not we can just direct management to put that money back.
Unless there's a
And pay the
better
loan
reason that we
back.
shouldn't. I haven't heard a reason that we shouldn't yet.
But if we're going to have a philosophical discussion on whether we proceed with a stormwater system, that's a whole nother conversation.
But it doesn't have anything to do with $121,000 because it doesn't.
It depends on how much of that money is loaned.
That basically covers a study.
How much of that money is loaned from wastewater?
I don't know if it's a loan at all, I think it was just captured from wastewater.
And
That's why I
that
said,
comes
let
back
them-
to my
let them work
original
on this.
question, how can you capture money from an enterprise fund?
It's $1,500 or $1,600 that
I
we're
think
putting
they
in.
have to go back when it started back in 2004 and see
Yeah.
how
Find out.
much it actually brought
Let's just
over.
save that for
Discussion.
another meeting.
The discussion likely was, stormwater would be a utility. It would be under the Public Works as a separate utility. So they set aside out of the wastewater fund that money to create the additional utility and then never built it. Adopted the ordinance, and never went to the next step to build it, so it's been sitting in there drawing interest since that time. We're talking about almost 20 years ago.
Okay, let's find
And that was
out,
done.
let's ask the manager to find out what the number is, or Kirk, whichever, however, Lois. Find out what kind of numbers we're talking about, how far back it goes, and what happened. If you want to pull the 1,600 out and not fund it this year, that's a budget question. Because we can't do anything with the 121,000 right now. We're only putting in 1,600. So, thoughts? Yes? See, this is why you guys should have your computers, because if you know something, this is a resource to pull up the information you need. We can't print everything every day. You need to have them here. That's why I brought my computer in. I wanted to talk about this. And I didn't want to have to bring all my reports. So anyway,
My feeling
let's
is,
get a definition of what happened.
Well, what you need is a report. You need to go back and get a report of what the rationale was and what the plan is.
Yeah,
Basically, at the time that occurred. Now, that's going to be manual, that's not going to be in your computers.
no, that's two different things.
Yeah,
I'm just
I mean,
saying,
it's-
they were asking why I had that information. That's why I
Well,
brought
it's
my
in the
computer.
treasurer's report, yeah. I mean, it shows on the sheet.
Okay. So,
The
I
treasury
guess-
report's not in the computer either.
yeah, it is. I just pulled up my last
Oh,
packet.
Ernie said he just got it.
No, the
Well,
last-
he
This
always
is
brings,
what-
he always brings.
I get lots of stuff, Pete.
Oh, okay.
He always has
It was
his
in
with
the
him.
last packet.
This is coming in the next packet.
So, if you want to stay budget talks, then do we want to fund the 1,600? We were talking stormwater, knowing what we know, do you want to leave it in there? Just,
What do we know?
we know that it's a question. We know that it's an issue, we're going to try to get an answer.
No, but what do we know about the 1,600?
That's in the budget to fund, that's probably where the 121 came from for the last 10 or whatever years. We've been budgeting for
The
it.
only revenues I'm putting in there is what I anticipate getting in the $500.
Yeah, to offset the
So
revenue.
that's based on anticipated revenues.
Those are the revenues.
I think, is that the number you're talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah,
1,700.
it's
Yeah.
$500.
yeah, you've got a $100
But
difference.
it's, I mean, it's not a continual trickle coming over from wastewater.
No.
No,
Okay,
No, that ended years ago.
So one issue really doesn't have anything to do with the other issue.
the question is, do you want to continue to fund this year as an offset to what he expects in revenue?
Well, I would say yes, because those are revenues coming from developments.
Right,
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
it's a pass-through, I hate to use that
But if
word.
you, in your budget packet that was sent out, the narrative talks about the stormwater fund. It says it was developed, started in 2004, so we should have, a record of it. The revenue comes from transfers from the wastewater fund, and interest revenue transfers ended in 2009. So that was from 2004 to 2009, and then accrued interest from that point on.
So Lois should be able to pull that account up and see in QuickBooks, you just punch in the account number, and it'll give you the history.
Right, that was on the basis of the board adopting a 2003 study, analysis of 5 high-growth watersheds within Marquette Township, but outside of the established drain districts. That's in the narrative.
Well, I think they leave the stormwater budget as is for this year. There isn't a lot of money coming in and
Yeah,
out, so
so it's not a big
it's
deal.
not a big deal. no.
That's why I asked the question. If we're talking about the budget, what do you want to do with it?
So what you need is a report on the history of the stormwater ordinance that was developed in 2004 with that transfer, that ended in 2009.
Okay,
So
That
leave,
sound good?
so leave stormwater as is
we'll
for
come,
now.
yep, and we'll come back to that after another time.
Metro Authority, just to refresh your memory on the Metro Authority, those are funds that come from the state that are intended to offset any costs that we have in the maintenance of public utilities that run through the township, rights of those. As for instance, brush fires that might be along the power line, our fire department responds to those, the Metro Fund is supposed to reimburse the fire department for their costs. As an example.
I think next year we have the books early. With our tabs, we can always replace these pages. It's too hard to find stuff.
Well, you will have for your budget sessions, that's,
I know,
this-
we can
this
always have them in the
discussion.
book.
Yeah, and you will, you'll have those for your first budget work session, the full books, full manuals. We're doing it a little bit differently this year to get the board's opinion because of all those discussions with CIP and a variety of things. To get your opinions on what's being presented, if you wanted additional information or changes, that would give us time to do it before you actually did your work sessions.
So anything else on Metro?
not a
That's
lot,
just in and out, just sits there. There's
it's not a
much you can
lot
do.
of money
Yeah,
either.
and it's basically your only option with Metro is to either take it or not take it. And if you don't take it, it goes to somebody else.
Yeah.
Comes directly from the state draws that from the utilities and passes it to those that have rights of ways.
Okay. What's next?
Solid waste.
Where are we going now?
Solid waste, you said?
If you have any questions about solid waste,
More than likely, the authority is going to ask for a millage to pay for this project they want to do, this equipment they want to buy. So whatever we're paying them is going to go up. More than likely next year.
well, only if the millage passes.
Yeah.
But again, if they're as flush as they say they are, why would they be looking for a millage for upgrading equipment?
Mhm. Well, this is new equipment.
Well, I understand, but
I agree.
yeah.
That's why I go to their meetings, because I don't like the way they do things.
It's a good question. They went from being totally broke and in the hole to money coming out of their ears. It's a miracle.
Yeah.
Would the need for new equipment indicate that they made absolutely no capital improvement planning?
Pre-funding, you mean?
Yeah, because that's all part of the whole thing. It's all part of the job that they're responsible for. Why the hell would they come along now and say they need millage for new equipment?
John, I don't think anybody on this side of the bridge pre-funds anything.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Just us.
They're just testing the water.
I mean, it doesn't matter if you're talking the Board of Light and Power or the Marquette County Road Commission. Even us, we don't pre-fund anything, we go and get a loan.
Depends on what it is, and how much
I
it is.
think we
We're
need
trying
to
pre-fund
expect better.
fire.
I think we really need to expect better, and we need to tell them that.
They don't listen.
I don't give it, well, pardon me, but I don't care that they don't care about it. I think that publicly, we should be saying, we have every reason to expect better.
Mhm.
The only problem is the general public only concerned with what's it costing.
Yeah, well, that's what it comes down to. I
That's
mean,
what
that's
it comes
why we should expect more. I agree.
But they all have elected boards.
They're appointed.
Well, I will say just a couple words in their defense. They were mismanaged for a number of years, and they were mismanaged because money was being taken from restricted funds to do operations.
We do that too.
No, we
do not.
don't.
Not from restricted funds.
No.
We just give ourselves a loan to the stormwater fund.
Those are enterprise funds. We don't go from the
It's
general
unrestricted.
fund.
We only have unrestricted.
Okay.
Yeah. And we can look like we're playing games here.
I'm beginning to wonder.
No, that's not fair.
Well, there's no change in any of the fees for the 2019 solid waste fund, so I don't have no problem with it. It looks fine.
The only question that you have at that point is how large of a fund balance do you want to build in solid waste for future closure? And I know there's been discussion in several budget years about that, but there's no cap on it now. It's a continuously building fund.
Because right now, we have $224,000 set in solid waste.
Right.
Plus, we have $180,000, $190,000 owed us from the general fund.
Yep. I think it's 170, I think it is. I can't remember what the exact figure is right now. Yeah,
But the question is that's for future closure, and we really don't know what that's gonna cost.
well, the last estimate is 50 years from now, so,
Every year it goes
Every year
to
goes
50
to 50,
years.
yeah.
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 Didn't
And they
somebody
admit
just
that.
decide to quit funding that?
Yeah, that's what I just pulled up on my computer because it's right in front of me.
So
They have 3 million in that perpetual care account that they stopped funding.
They stopped funding themselves, they're not
Right.
contributing to it.
And that was
Right.
part of the fees that they were charging.
Right.
That was, yeah, that was part of the fee.
Mhm.
That was what, 75 cents or something like that?
So there's 75 cents per ton that they're not contributing. They're putting in their 5-year, you were asking about funding, pre-funding? They're putting in their 5-year capital funds. If you remember, I sent this to you on a separate sheet. It
Yes.
was part of the report.
Well, I think the more the better, and I don't know where the cap comes because the 19 townships that use it are gonna be on the hook for something.
Mhm. My biggest concern is now that they're not recycling glass, and landfills move so fast.
Well, and that's why they want this new equipment, because they're saying by going to dual stream, that will, I don't know what the percentage was, but it will help fund the equipment. You know, it's not gonna be a complete wash of what they can gain from what they have to spend. And I don't think they've said that, what the turnaround, the ROI is, return on investment.
But if they're not gonna process the glass and landfill it,
But they wouldn't with this new equipment, is what they're saying. All the plastics, all the cardboard and the glass can be distributed to whatever entity buys them. Whereas now it's commingled with everything and they can't do it. Even though it's dual stream, it doesn't make sense to me. But the machine is gonna have the different treadmills going out. It's gonna take up a whole room. I've been in the room, it's bigger than this. They're gonna have to expand it a little bit. It's probably twice the size of this.
well, I understand that, but the markets are not there anymore.
They're
So-
saying that the markets are there, but they can't contribute to them because of the way they're recycling now.
But the markets that they were selling to shut down with the new tariffs.
Because of, in China, I know.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the primary.
Even before the tariffs, they,
Right, but they're saying that because we can give them, there's somebody out there that's gonna do it. They're not gonna go to China. They're going somewhere else in the States or in they were talking about Canada. In fact, I think that's where it's going right now. Something is going to Canada. I'd have to go back and try to find it.
I think Canada just passed legislation restricting what comes into the country.
We've got a 1-year, or they have a 1-year contract.
Okay.
I can probably dig that
That was
up.
in their whole presentation over in the community room, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it was in one of their last, I just pulled up the last meeting.
But a lot of things have changed with the new tariffs. I don't know, it's,
But the thing is that's their operation, I'm worried about ours.
Yeah.
And I think we have to figure out, and it's gonna might be a hard question, but where should we cap that money for future closures? Because once that gets to a certain point, the manager's correct. We don't need to collect anymore if we're gonna cap it, and that might affect that rate.
I guess maybe I don't understand what's happening here, that the 19 townships are paying the closure money.
Part of it.
that was the original contract with the landfill.
We're on the
authority.
hook for part of the closure costs.
But the landfill is not putting any more money into the closure fund.
Correct.
Where's the money going that we pay them? That goes into their
That's
capital
Their
improvement
5-year
fund.
that's
capital
moving to a
fund.
different fund, yeah.
So then we're not paying to a closure fund, we're paying to a capital improvement fund.
Right. And I stood up and said, then why are the townships continuing to have to pay this? We need to stop.
And they said no.
And they said, no.
So we're just doing it because they said so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as there's a good reason.
Yeah.
The drawback with authorities.
They can do what they want.
No, they can't. I mean-
Well, yeah, but to a point.
I mean,
Stop paying it.
it's silly for us to be sending money that's going someplace that, it just doesn't make
Purpose
sense.
isn't-
The whole thing doesn't make
I
sense.
know.
Well, that was the
And
whole
the best way to
problem
get
with-
attention is quit sending them money.
But that was the whole issue that was going on with the last last year of the ordinance in terms of how they're applying the ordinance and what authorities and powers the members have, which basically turned out to be none.
And many of the decisions that we could make as a county have to be unanimous. All 19 townships and 3 municipalities have to agree. And I don't know the articles and stuff well enough off the top of my head.
You talking about the landfill?
Yeah. Landfill authority.
But that would have been the original agreement.
Yeah, I've got them on my computer. I've got hard copies. But I don't know it. Darlene knows it better than I do, but she doesn't even know all of it. It's a screwy setup.
Well, I think if we're on the hook with the 3 municipalities and 19 other townships, I think 250,000 is enough, but
Well, if you say 250,000, we've exceeded that already,
yeah.
because the general fund has $170,000 of it sitting out there.
I'd just like to see what, and this isn't part of our discussion, I'd just like to see what other municipalities have in the bank for their closure cost. And that, of course, isn't our business, but
So
Well, just cap it off at 250 then.
how much are we funding it?
I mean, I don't know, do you think that's correct, Randy? Is 250 enough? Is it not enough? Or?
Well,
Well,
that's
if the
what we're
landfill, you know, if the threat isn't closure, the threat is failure, is what the threat is. And, you know, and it's, if the liner is pierced or whatever, then that has to be cleaned up right away. That's when that money would come in. I think there should be some thought given to what the maximum amount, you know, maybe hold it level for 5 years and then start again, you know, whatever to, you know.
Reappraise it.
But you're talking 50 years. They keep moving the lifespan out 50 years, 50 years, 50 years. So, you know, you may never have to access that money, depending on technologies. They may start mining the material again if, you know, if there is a commercial use or a commercial demand for the material. It's just like happened with the ash landfill. You know, they found a market and they started mining it out, so they gave us a credit back. I mean, it's possible that landfills will do that. The garbage mountains are popping up all over the place.
They extended how many times so far?
This is about the 4th or 5th time that I know of since I've been here.
Why don't we just cap it at 225,000 and move on?
We're still funding it with them too.
I know.
In our bills, like Dave was
Well,
saying.
75 cents a ton, isn't it?
So until
Yes.
they move that out of there, I think I mean, I stood up at the meeting and said, this is crazy. To have us continually contribute to a fund that now you're saying is closed. That doesn't make sense.
Quit paying it.
That's where my question comes from, is why do we continue to fund something that's closed?
Yeah. So what we could do, or I could look at, is
1,000 tons.
the articles, there's 2 documents that
Well,
control this, and look and see if we're allowed to do that. I mean, an authority does have authority. They're a municipality in and of themselves, so, you know, they can fine us or whatever if we don't follow the contract. The township signed it,
What do you mean that?
so I can look and see what our,
Recourse.
what our options are.
You think Roger could help us and find a way to?
He might even know some of it because
Yeah.
he was around back then.
But when you say you want to cap it at X number of dollars, what does that mean?
You stop paying it.
It means the
Start
residents
making
stop.
contributions.
Residents will stop paying it.
You stop contributing.
And the money sits there
Reduce
and
cost to
collects
the
interest.
residents.
Yeah.
Well, I think initially what it would do is if you capped it at 225, it would relieve that loan from the general fund.
He would do
We
what?
still owe it.
Yeah, but it would help.
That's approximately $180,000.
Over time, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a 30-year loan, 30-year time
And
frame.
what are you contributing this year, Randy, to that?
5,000, I think.
Oh, 5,000.
I think that's what I built into the budget.
So Roger might know
5,000.
quicker and have that separate folder than I would. He could probably give us a good answer as to what our recourse is. Stopping the contribution, because they've got it in all their minutes, in all their
Well, that-
packets. They're saying that they're not funding it.
I just say we internally, we cap our contribution to that fund. And then go forward and say, you know, you stopped yours, we're gonna stop ours.
I don't know how they can force us to pay it.
They can't,
That's in our fees.
That's up, yeah, it's basically up to us what we
You've
set
got
aside
two
for
issues.
closure funds.
right, you've got two
But if
issues.
it's- If it's capped and you feel we have enough already
No,
there,
there's two different issues. Theirs is capped. We are continually funding it through our bills, and now they're taking that money and putting it in their 5-year capital. If we want to stop funding, that's a budget issue. If we want to stop funding that account, that's us. These are two different things happening. One is the authority that we're paying, one is what we're funding through the budget. So if we want to cap this and not fund it anymore, that's a reduction to our residents. But what we're paying them in, what do they call them?
Tipping fees
Yeah, tipping fees,
per ton.
we're still obligated to give it to the authority. But they're taking the money now, and instead of putting it in that perpetual account, they're putting it in their 5-year capital account. Is that,
There are other things.
So they're not
Right.
funding closure anymore.
right,
So we're just helping them run their budget for them,
Yeah, and there's no requirement
that we do
for
that.
closure. It's
Right, we don't have-
Basically, it's a
we don't have to
potential
worry.
future
Doesn't make
cost
any
that the
sense.
township's been funding, so we have the money at the time if it comes up. It's a, like David had identified, it's a pre-funding, basically. We were pre-funding the closure.
Can we have our attorney look at what would happen if we drop 75 cents off that?
yeah, I think we should. ask
That
them.
way, if it's legal, we do, we just don't send it anymore. Can they,
Well, you know, we're not, what's going into the solid waste fund, the closure fund, doesn't go to them. That's our account. We're talking about two different things. The 75 cents that Lynn's talking about is the tipping fee. Every ton that goes in there, they charge 75 cents on the ton. They're capturing that 75 cents and putting it in their long-term capital rather than putting it towards their own closing costs. They're relying on the other 23 entities to cover the closing costs, besides what they have already set aside. So they've stopped making their contribution to it. So what I'm suggesting is we have no requirement to pre-fund anything. But when closure time comes, whatever we have reduces, let's say if this share is 300,000 and we've got 250 sitting in the bank, we're only on a hook coming up with another 50,000.
But why
And I
don't,
can't remember what the formula is in the articles in terms
yeah,
of
it is.
how each municipality would be billed for the closure cost on a percentage basis. I can't remember. I think it was a combination of population and SEV, I think.
And why we have to do that twice, I don't understand.
I think we need to have someone else look at it and come up with some thoughts on it and that too, so. And
But it sounds like if you cap it now, you're not capping the closure, you're capping your capital fund.
Right.
It won't be contributed to the capital.
We're just cutting it off and see,
Well, we're not contributing to their capital.
Well, it's only
Take it out of there.
75 cents,
But
right?
what Ernie's got in his fund is not being paid for tipping fee. That's our set aside for closure, our closure costs.
But we're also,
There-
tipping fees are in our bill to them.
Right, the tipping fees, the tipping fee contains 75 cents that goes towards the closure. So we're still contributing 75 cents to the closure, but we're not putting aside our separate fund. That's what I'm suggesting, is our closure fund that you got in there, that we not contribute every year, continuing to build that fund,
But that's why I don't
anticipating a future
understand.
closure.
If they're saying the 3 million is the number that they need for the perpetual fund for a closure or disaster, why do we still continue to have to do this? Or we don't have to, but we're doing it.
We don't, yeah.
We're sending them 75 cents per
Right.
ton. Why are we doing this too?
We're doing that too in case the closure cost is $1 million and not 300.
Why would ours, this is what they're saying.
It goes back to our requirement under the original Authority Act that we will participate at a certain level in the closure cost should there need to be one. So it's just like the Utility Review Committee. The Utility Review Committee, in case we have to sue the BLP again, has built up a war chest.
But you're not doing it twice.
Well, we're all still paying bills to VLP.
No, that's not what I mean.
Well, I know, but what I'm saying is, it's a separate fund.
Right.
If we ever have to do it, and that's what we're doing, what Ernie's fund there is a separate fund, separate and apart from what we
But
pay.
why? Why do we have to pay twice? Why are we doing,
Because the board at the time
Agreed.
established a fund, a protective fund, so you wouldn't have to come up with closure costs at the time of the closure.
no, I'm not making this clear.
No, I understand what you're saying.
But why? If they're saying
Have an
that they
insurance
need,
policy.
no, if they're saying they need 75 cents per ton to contribute to the perpetual fund from every entity, that's our percentage right there. Why are we doing this besides?
Because the
We're already
prior
contributing.
board decided to do that.
Yeah.
But if we're paying our percentage every month, do you see where that not makes sense? Does it make sense?
Well, we are paying double, but
An umbrella, it's just like an umbrella insurance policy, same thing. They set it up as an insurance policy in case the cost was higher than what was in that fund. The point we're at now, 25 years later, maybe it's not necessary anymore. Maybe there's enough in that fund to cover it. Do
Well,
we
that's
know
what
for
I'm-
sure? If they've got 3 million in there, I guess the question to the DEQ is, or to EPA, what's the cost of closure of a landfill today?
But isn't that what they're saying? It's 3 million?
Well, that's what the utility, that's what the landfill is saying.
Right.
I don't know if that's true or not.
They would base it on that, wouldn't they?
it's hard to say. I don't know.
I have a question, this may be for a little. If we take 75 cents off the 450, can we still meet all our expenditures with that?
75 cents is going to them.
They're
It has
taking it.
nothing to do with our expenditures.
But we still have to pay them X number of dollars every month.
Tipping fee.
Tipping fee. But if I say,
Joe,
we
what's
drop our
what's
tipping
your
fee by,
question?
we drop our
Yep.
fee to the residents from
What's your
1450 to 1375.
What your question is the argument would be, we've been paying $14.75 to contribute to the closure.
Yeah.
We're done.
If you're not putting that 75 cents to the closure, we're not gonna fund your capital account. So we're reducing our payment by 75 cents, you're gonna get $14.
Per ton.
Tipping fee, per ton, yeah.
Can we do
To
that?
put everything in
That's what I'm
perspective, why don't we
saying,
just
that's
talk to Roger, because you don't know what he's gonna tell us, and then we can come up with what we wanna do about this.
Yeah, they've
We're gonna be
changed-
here till 10 o'clock tonight.
Well,
on
they've
one
changed
subject.
their formula,
Yeah.
so.
Let's-
Okay.
Let's
John's
move
down
on.
here, got a question for you now.
Yes, John.
It's a lawyer figure.
Whoever looks at this needs to look closely at the incorporation papers
That's what
that we
Roger knows.
signed on to.
And that's what Roger
It
would tell
may
you.
be that we signed on to something that's not very good, but it was signed on to.
Yeah.
And that's what they'll throw at you.
Sure. Because that's what they're looking at, and they're making an internal determination that they can do that under the Articles of the Association Agreement.
And that's what Roger will tell us.
It goes back to what I have on the solid waste, which is $120,000. If you want to cap it, whatever, $224,000, you want to cap it at something, we want to put any more money into our fund. We can then lower what we're charging the
Yeah, that's the
residents
question.
in that.
We don't know if we can do that or not until Roger looks at it.
We can do it for
We
our
can do it for
for our
our,
own.
Moving
it's
right
our
along.
insurance policy,
Moving right along, come on.
okay?
I have too many questions.
Take that out of your budget next time.
Water is next.
Where are we at now?
Randy's saying water next.
Because water doesn't have any increases, it's supposed to stay static, other than I think the
Okay, water fund.
Fire. So we're leaving wastewater, and stormwater, okay.
water.
Water's toward the back.
The only change I see in the water fund, correct me if I'm not, Kirk, is The rate at $8.66 per 1,000 gallons is going to be continued the same. The only thing that's going to change is the monthly base rate for the equivalent meter, which is at $7, will go to $8. That's the only change for this year in the water.
Well, actually, I have been revising the budgets based on the CIP meeting that we had. So I did remove some stuff from that portion, which is basically the improvements.
Okay? Well, we don't have that updated one yet, at least
Right.
I don't.
But essentially, on the water, it's just basically, and what I'm doing is shifting it back to in some cases, operations. But it's still stuff that hasn't been, because that was basically what I understand.
Push your
You're
button.
saying
I
this
was
should
gonna
not
say.
be,
Can't hear you.
Push your button down.
this
Is
should not be,
it green or did it go up?
actually it's dead.
Oh, okay. That's why. I'll get you a new battery.
Died. So anyway, if I understand it correctly, you were saying, the board was saying that there were some items in the capital improvements that were not, should be funded out of an improvements fund. It should be part of operations.
Yes.
So that's kind of
Did we ever resolve the capital improvement request? And that part of this budget?
Yeah.
Kind of have the cart before the horse. We had requested a number of statements about some of the capital improvement programs. I've never got one.
No, I don't think I did either. I don't remember that. I don't remember getting anything.
So where are we at on water? Questions now or what?
Do we need to back up and,
I don't know how we can talk about the water budget if we haven't resolved capital improvement programs.
what are you talking about, Kirk, that you moved already from CIP? Is it like $1,000 or $15,000? Do you remember off the top of your head how much money you're talking about?
From where?
well, it's quite a bit. It was basically three items.
That's probably not in here.
You just took some items out of there that we were concerned should be maintenance items and non-capital improvement.
Correct, yes, that's right.
So if you took those out, what impact did that make on your budget, Kirk?
Well, on the water budget, it's like a 10% per 1,000 gallon increase.
10% increase? Increase or decrease?
Increase.
I do not understand how switching something from capital improvement to maintenance can make any difference in the budget. They're still being funded.
Are you saying there was a difference, capital, you just moved it? In other
Correct,
words?
yes.
Okay. Yeah, it shouldn't change the percentage. Or you mean the percentage of the rate,
I'm talking about the actual rate.
the per gallon rate?
Yes. Yeah.
I
It made a difference.
It shouldn't make any difference if you're moving it from one chart of accounts to the other.
Well, it's not just a one-to-one. So if there's stuff that has to be switched, okay, and I didn't move everything. I took some stuff out, like, for example, the AMI, the hardware and software and all that, which cost us over $200,000. I've been amortizing that, so that has to be shifted to the replacement, because we still got to replace it at some point, right? But I didn't put that in there yet, because right now that's being done by the auditor. So I don't want to just arbitrarily, at this point, be adding stuff to that other one.
Trying to remember where we left that. It's been a month. Let's see.
One other thing of note, though, is I left the debt service monthly fee the same. And the reason for that is you seem to have wanting to pay off debt. And really the only way you're going to pay off debt is to just set the fee and leave it. So for example, we had 4 or 5 different things that were paid for in debt in the water fund. Okay, one of those got paid off this year, so that's over and done with. But I'm leaving the fee the same so that we can accumulate money and at some point, and that's restricted money, pay off some debt earlier.
But that shouldn't
And
be.
also, as what past practice has been, as we increase our service population, okay, our customers, have been reducing the per unit debt service charge, monthly service charge. Because that was a previous board that wanted to do that.
Right, that needs to be a recommendation to me. I see that, and that should be enumerated in here whether we want to do that or not.
Where you want to do what?
Continue to fund debt at the same rate.
Okay, well,
Shouldn't be just, unless I'm
no, that's
wrong.
You've
fine.
lost me.
I think that should be our decision whether we decide to do that or not. I wish I could, wherever I put that form.
Are you talking about when you paid off the Harlow settlement?
He said he just
No.
paid off one of the, if you remember that loan, and it had
Yes,
all the
yeah.
columns, 2 or 3, but at the top, were going to be paid off this year in 19. So what he's saying is he's not changing anything from the total debt amount that he's charging everybody, because he wants to save some of that up for future debt. And I said, I don't think that's his decision to make. He could make a recommendation to do that. But I don't think the budget should be changed or not changed to that end without letting us decide if that's what we want to do.
Because
So-
we did pay off the Harlow this year and that.
Correct, yeah.
So I had a question, where is this dollar going?
That's what he's saying. He wants to keep the debt, whatever the number is. If it's $15 a month for debt, because mine is real high. I pay about $116 a month for debt. So if the resident's paying $10 a month for debt, he's saying even though these things are paid off, he wants to keep it at $10 to use it for future debt.
We'll keep paying the debt down quicker.
Right.
Not future debt,
Oh,
existing
well.
debt into the
The
future.
existing, okay, either way.
So that's the other question I have, is how is this dollars distributed to the other debt?
He'd have to tell us what he's recommending, where it goes.
Because we're taking in X number of dollars, a lump sum, and you're
Yep.
breaking it apart. If you don't have one because it's been paid off, how is that dollars distributed to the other debts and that?
Well, it's distributed to the other debts, it won't be, what is happening is we've got overlapping debts, okay, that are coming and going. At this point, they're mostly going, nothing coming. So if we could pay off a debt, and it's not like paying off a debt, it might be like paying, we might end it a year. Let me back up before what we're doing now. When we first got into debt in the water, or actually it's the wastewater fund initially, we set a fee to pay off the debt. That fee never changed. We grew, and we cut, it was like 5 years off the debt.
Understand, I'm just saying is the dollars that we're paying to the Harlow settlement,
Yeah.
now that's paid off, where is that dollars going? Is that going to one debt or is it being spread across all of them by a percentage point?
Well, my recommendation would be to just leave it in that restricted, the debt service fund for the water fund, or the wastewater fund, depending on.
And this is where we're going again, we're getting into that same cycle. If we're going to decide that a particular project gets paid off early, that money, we should earmark that for whatever account number
This
it's
one
got
isn't
on there.
earmarked, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's
but
restricted
you're
for
saying the
debt.
funding isn't the additional debt is not going, you're saying it's going into that, leaving it in the debt fund and
Which is
not
a
into a
fund.
specific
Right.
project. Yeah, I don't agree with that. We can't do it that way. That's the whole idea of breaking down the CIP so that we can determine what debt we want to pay and what projects we want to do.
Well, let me put it another way. I mean, last year, for example, you decided to fund the improvements line item, okay? And then you said, we do not want you to spend that money on improvements. We want you to put that money into debt. Okay, well, that's totally different. You know, you can't, if you want to do that, you can restrict it. So you can do, this is the same thing right here. If you want to pay down debt, all I'm saying is, that's where the money should go. And where the money should come from would be the money that's already going into that fund. That's my point here.
Isn't it simple enough to make a list of the lowest one first and go right down
Yeah.
the list? Okay, if
That's
you're
what
in,
you got that in
we're
front
gonna
of
beat
you.
off, we're gonna work on
Right
this
there.
one.
Yeah.
I can't find it.
That's what I'm saying, where is that money going that was dedicated to the Harlow settlement? Is that being spread among all of them, or is it going to the next one to be paid off?
Should go to the next
But
one.
we're talking about next year. We just paid it off this year.
Goes in my pocket.
We paid off Harlow this year,
Correct.
so that dollars is still coming in every month.
Well, they will be if you go with my recommendation.
It has been, because we've been paying $15 a month for that debt, and once it's paid off, that percent of that dollars had to go somewhere in that.
It's $2.35.
No, it didn't.
for con-
So it came off our total debt, and in addition to that, I reduced the monthly charge based on the increase in the number of customers we get. All I'm saying is, don't change that amount, that monthly amount. Leave that as, pay off as many debts as you can, as quick as you can. That's all I'm saying.
Right, but what we need to do is decide what debt it goes toward.
Okay?
In essence, he gave it away.
Pardon?
In essence, he gave it away. Instead of going towards paying other debt, the cost to the residents was reduced by an equivalent amount,
We're not gonna do that.
raised.
Right, but he's saying he wanted to keep it in there at $15. That's where I just found it was $15 a
To
month.
pay on the next debt.
Yes, but we need to determine where that goes.
We just need a list of the debts.
Exactly.
And the next one, that's all you have to
Yeah.
do.
Yes.
We
And if
need-
he's got that direction, that's fine, but he wants to leave it in that debt account. I think we need to earmark it for a particular debt.
Until it's paid off.
Right,
And
maybe
then
we
move it
want to
down
pay
the next
some,
one. And that's what he's doing.
And you have that list right in front of you. I mean,
He already paid off Harlow.
Well, no, it's now that, the question is now that it's paid off, it was $75 a month.
Right.
Where's that $75 a month not being allocated? What he's saying is it's not being allocated, it's reducing,
Right.
he's not collecting it.
The $15 is still on the monthly bill.
We had a summary sheet that
That's what I'm looking
broke down the bill.
yep.
Yeah.
Well, I know what it is for
The one I-
water
yesterday.
debt service. It's $15.
Yeah.
I know,
mean, we're
we broke
talking-
down my asset.
But we took the $15,
Yeah.
we broke it down.
Fargo was $2.35.
Okay.
So I'm recommending we take the $2.35 and put it on the next debt that we
What
choose.
I would like to see is an update of that sheet for this year's budget. And you can't have Harlow on there because it's not.
It wouldn't either, yeah.
So
And that's
where
what
are
I'm
you
looking
proposing
for.
we put it?
I don't think he did that yet. 18 is as far as I have.
That's-
Okay, my comment is we are on policy governance. We make a policy to pay the debt down. And he, Superintendent of Public Works presents his recommendation to us, what debt needs to be paid down. And then we look at it and either approve it or say no.
Right, that's what I said, he needs to
We-
give us a recommendation.
We shouldn't be shooting from the hip and say, we want to pay this down. We need that information first before we do anything,
Yep.
to keep it more on track.
I just asked.
I don't want to hear about this debt and this debt and this debt. I just want to move forward and say, I want a recommendation saying that we're going to do this. I think we're spending way too much time detailed on things that we shouldn't be detailing as a whole. That's why we have a superintendent of public works to present that, tell him what we need. He presents it to us, and then we either decide yes or no.
So the argument here is that we haven't received that.
So that's what we need.
I just asked a simple question, where's the money going?
Don't ask any more questions for crying out loud. Ask where
There
the
was a
beef is.
request for a great deal of information the last time we talked about CIP. We don't have it yet. I'm curious why. It was justification request, and it was to be written out, and it just isn't here yet. How can we sit down and look at this year's budget, or next year's budget, and decide that it's a good budget or a bad budget, if there's CIP items in that budget that we haven't got the information we asked for on those CIP items?
Right.
So how can you sit here and consider a budget without the information?
And if it's changed significantly enough that you've moved,
Well, yeah, no, I agree, but it's my understanding that that was the purpose of this meeting, was to discuss what exactly do you guys want? You were to ask the question.
We already,
yeah, we already asked that. That was,
the last work session, we already
and
asked
I don't
what
have
the
anything saying it was
information we wanted.
updated. So basically what we need is
How many times do we have to ask for it?
that sheet that shows our debt. And it's, I can't find it. It's in the regular budget book. It's the full-page sheet that shows our debt spread across all of the projects. It's probably 10 columns. We need that one with hard glow off.
Jeez.
Whatever we expect to pay off in 19, maybe in italics or something. What's left? And then we need the change from the CIP, the new list showing what debt is shifting, or I shouldn't say debt, but the,
Where the money's going,
yeah, yeah.
the savings.
And then the spreadsheet that you gave us with the replacement and improvements, that breakdown of the $15, what happens when Hargalo comes out? That reduces the rate. You're suggesting that we leave it at 15. Where's that 235 going to go? Does that make sense? So we need three things before we can,
235.
the $2.35 is the Hargalo percentage for last year. I don't have anything for this year. On the $15 debt.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, I thought we had the years. I thought we had, you and I put that together last year. It had 17, 18, and 19
Yeah,
projections
that was all laid out.
of the $15 debt for water and then whatever it is for wastewater. I don't know,
Well, there's
maybe
a
I
debt
didn't.
schedule. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. That's good.
Does anybody have the last year's budget? I didn't bring it.
I didn't bring it.
That's
Was
that
that
schedule.
last year's?
Yeah. It's in my office.
I think,
Did you ever get recognized?
I think if he can come up and tell us what's gonna happen with the dollars, percentages and that. and-
You wanted to say something.
That was my simple question. And that-
And it's a Lynn and see if there's something there she wants. That's 2017.
Yep, see, it's not
And
even on the
also too,
breakdown from
the
last year.
CIP that Dave requested too also has to be provided.
Apparently I didn't say that.
But I see no reason to move any further until we have that information on water and wastewater, because solid waste is really an issue for me, but, and the Metro Authority is not, and the stormwater is not, although the fact that we have.
You want a fee
money-
charge, Lynn? Is that what you're looking at? Fee charge?
Nope, I got that.
My theory is the stormwater, if we're not using that money, I think it should go back to the wastewater fund.
Yeah, we definitely need to put that.
And that's gonna drastically change Kirk's budget,
But you need to look at your ordinance.
yeah,
You have an ordinance. If the ordinance calls for that, then you have to change the ordinance.
yeah.
I have some other questions. Do I dare even bring them up?
I don't see how we can
Yeah. how
Move
can we
any
go
further.
farther?
discuss
The
the
numbers aren't
budgets
real.
without the information we've asked for.
Total waste of time.
Well, I just had a question on the base rate.
Yeah.
Why we're going from 7 to 8?
Well, that's just it. We
That's
can't
another one, we
answer
don't
that.
have any background in that. And the other question I have, if you go through the write-up, you're looking at the increase in wages. I'll take expense administrative salary full-time from 39,009 to 40,980. All of a sudden, your pension goes from 4,800 to 6,900. Did we increase the percent of that?
Those are scheduled, those are the scheduled people moving through the pay plan, through the pay grade changes. There's no salary increase built in this, other than those that move in the pay grades.
Okay, but what I'm saying is the pension contribution expenditure is going from 4,800 to 6,900, and the salary in that area is going from 39,900 to 40,009. You're talking $1,000 increase in that, but you're talking over $2,000 in pension going up?
Pensions went up statewide,
We're only contributing 5%, are we not?
not anymore.
How much are we contributing?
Because the actuarial assumptions changed. People are living longer than 75 years. It changed based upon a changed actuarial insurance industry. Why? People are living to be 100 now. They're not dying at 75.
I know, but I thought the township's contribution was 5%.
The whole plan changed.
What's the percentage
What's the
now?
percent then?
I'm gonna have to bring it, I'm gonna have to pull it out, but the last actuarial study that came out did that, statewide.
Well, statewide or not, but doesn't affect us. We have to make a decision locally if we're going to contribute that much
You
into
have
the
a
retirement.
contract that says you will pay the dollar amount.
We're going to go broke. If you really start looking at all this stuff, and the way they're going, we just don't have the dollars to do it. And
Well, we do.
we do as long as we're bringing it in, but we're bringing it in on the backs of the taxpayers.
Well, that's
Well,
what
that's
the
the
whole
only
budget
revenue we
is.
have.
Yeah, that's what the whole budget
It's
is.
the only way you do it.
But $2,000 is not gonna break the budget.
But you have to look at every one of the
It's,
pensions all the way through, and that they just jump.
yeah, but if that's the total in the one account, that's not gonna break us.
Get rid of them all.
For the year, divide that by
Take
12.
volunteers.
Yeah, that's not
Something a
gonna,
month.
I'd just like to know what the percentage is.
Yeah, yeah, if you could find out the percentage, Randy, that would probably help.
I mean, I don't wanna argue over $2,000 in a
That's just on this
multi-million
one,
dollar-
that's just on this one account.
Yeah. But I think that's separated over 12 employees too, that's not just one.
No. he's
No,
saying
that's
just-
one employee.
Yeah, that's one department. So if it's 2,000 for,
That's $3,000 increase in
One
pension.
employee where,
Under expenditures in 558, you got a salary of 705, salary full-time.
so
The price is going up to it's going up about $1,000, but yet your pension is going from 4,800 to 6,900.
in the water fund?
Yeah. It's $3,000 increase in pension in a year,
Oh, yeah, I see, 48 to 69.
State,
Okay,
$2,000 difference.
how many employees are in the administrative side of
they're all
water?
spread. Kirk is the administrator.
But this is something we have to-
Spread over all of the administrations.
With the percentage. So he's the only one?
I'm not pointing to an individual, I'm looking at the numbers here.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
That's
How
what I'm
many
looking
people
at.
are in the administrative? Salary full-time?
Yeah.
Who's that? That's just one person.
In what budget?
In the water administration?
That's Kirk.
No, he's making more than
It's
this.
a part of it. He's spread through all three,
Split.
all of the public
That's
works
half.
budgets. That's half of his.
But then you go to 568 on the water system salaries, you're talking about a little over 3,000, $4,000 total increase on that. But your pension is going up almost $8,000 a year.
That's pretty much the rest of the department, except
No,
for
it's 20.
customer accounts, which is also separate.
Okay, so
I think we need to know.
take all the changes and divide them by the number of total employees, since they're percentages. That'll tell you what the change is.
But you start extrapolating that out over time, and you're generating a tremendous amount of dollars.
It's predicated on payroll.
Yeah, payroll's fine, I can understand that, but when the percentages jump this high, this quick.
Because you have to pre-fund your retirement obligations. They've changed the actuarial evaluations to a higher lifestyle.
So let's wait and see
More
what that
time to
percentage
fund.
is.
Let's see the percentage and that's going on, so.
Okay.
Yeah, Ryan's right, that's not just statewide either, that's national.
And also the reason why that was done is because
can't retire.
municipalities were not funding it.
Right.
And we're all paying for
some of
that.
Retired.
So what was the third thing that what we need from Kurt? We need the spreadsheet of the debt, either with hard glow on there or off for next year, so we can see how much money that is, either way. We need the changes in capital improvement, what you're recommending, what that number, the dollar money that you're taking out of the repair and improvement account and going to where we said regular operations. And then there was a third thing that we needed from him.
We need the expanded justifications for the CIPs. We talked about it the last time, we talked about this at a work session.
I'm trying to picture. Go ahead, John.
I think when this stuff is coming up, this other information that we're asking for, as it comes in, I think we need to sort the fly waste from the pepper on the tablecloth. If it is a result of legislative action taken at the state legislature that mandates these things, we need to be aware of it, but then move on. And then move to these other issues that you want information on. But once you find out that something like retirement must be funded by the local communities in a certain way, mandated by the state legislature, move on.
It's not mandated by the state legislature.
Oh, yes, it is.
It's the
It
percentage.
is mandated.
I have to see that.
Percentage
Yeah.
is, that's what we have to identify.
They changed it because people were not pre-funding it, and pension plans are going broke, so they changed the legislator
Right,
to change
that's
it.
why cities were going broke, was because people were retiring and they hadn't funded their retirement.
And even if we were funding it at 5 and they figure it has to be 8 or 10 now, we're gonna have to continue to do that. We'll fund it sooner because we've already got it.
Yeah,
Well,
That was a question I
and
raised
they keep changing it.
quite a while ago with the MES, is where we're at, and we're at 78 or 79%.
Yeah, we're close to 80%.
Yeah.
We're better off than most, I can tell
Most
you
of them are
that.
not, they're in trouble.
The major change is that there's been a requirement to change the actuarial figures. It's no longer based on a lifespan of 75 years, it's based on a lifespan of 85 years. The actuarial calculations change. That means you have to fund more now because you're behind the curve already by 10 years.
Isn't part of that, if you don't have it funded, or properly funded by X amount of years, you'll have to take a loan to
Bond.
bond it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not going to have to.
We-
We're not going to have to fund it because we're funded reasonably well, but we're still underfunded based on the new actuarials.
Didn't a lot of that problem coming with the retire, rehire problem, you know,
That
with
was
the
a
state,
piece
with
of
the
it.
county?
That was a piece of it. Depleted their funds.
Okay, there was a third thing that we were,
I just
didn't
need
think it was the
my
CIP.
personal recommendation for the base rate, why it's going up $1.
I think in general, the problem with specifically the wastewater and the water, is we don't have the information to make a determination if this is a good budget or not. We don't have the information on the CIPs. The CIPs have an impact on the budget. We don't have the information as to why the rates are going the direction the rates are going. If you ask for an increase in wastewater, for example, of whatever it was, $1 and some cents a 1,000 gallons, there should be an explanation of why and where that's going. Not just a reference to the ordinance.
Haven't you asked for that before?
I did. I asked for that back in the planning commission, and it's been asked for 2 or 3 times since. And we don't have it yet.
Okay, so the third thing, I agree. The third thing that we need is the breakdown for, well, we'll need 18, because I have 17's breakdown of the $15 debt, where that is. That's how I found the 235 was the Harglow contribution out of the $15. So I have it for 17, we need 18 and 19, that breakdown. And then everything on the CIP, where we are right now, what's getting moved, and what the impact of that is on the budget, right?
Yeah, and there was a summary sheet that we asked for last year and got, that broke down the bill.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
And
Broke down by debt.
it broke down the whole water bill.
Yeah.
The amount you're paying per 1,000 gallons of water was broken down as, pardon?
Didn't make copies.
You had that, I'll give you a copy.
This meeting. There's 17, 18.
Well, this is an information gathering meeting anyway. This is what we need to move forward, so.
17.
We do have 17.
So should we have them try to put that water together, and then we'll do a separate meeting? Guys, let's stay together here. So we get this information and just do water next time, right? We try that. And then we can spend some time on it. And we can put wastewater on when we schedule the meeting if you want, but I'm thinking if he just puts everything together for water, we can start there. We need all the CIP justification. We need, subset of that is the breakdown of what happens when he moves some of that to operations. Then we need the spreadsheet of showing the debt, all the debt laid out and how it's amortized over the 20-some years, I think, on that spreadsheet. And then we need the spreadsheet breakdown of the rates and the debt. How much of that $7 goes where? Of the $15 debt, how is it broken among the items we're paying, the debt we're paying? Okay? Clear as mud?
No, but to the a degree we can, we divide the things that we can deal with
I understand that.
and put aside the things that we cannot.
If
Well-
we had the information have been requesting, I don't think there's any reason you can't look at wastewater and water in the same meeting. We just need the information.
Well, but I'm just saying, if this is a big project for him to try to pull all this together, I don't know.
Apparently it is, because it's been 3 months.
Okay, well, Tuesday we'll schedule another work session.
Why wouldn't it be wise? The request is made, and until that request is served, we not even schedule another meeting. Why schedule one now?
Because it'll give him a time frame in which he has to work. It'll
Well, it's
tell
going to be
him.
worked on between now and Tuesday. So on Tuesday, I would hope on Tuesday you're going to set regular budget work sessions. So get this done, get it to you before Tuesday. And then Tuesday, you could set your regular budget work sessions and we'll get right into it.
Okay, I didn't know how much of a project it was to put together,
It doesn't matter how much of a project it is, it'll be done by Tuesday,
okay?
right?
Thank you.
No, I just don't want that.
And actually too, if we schedule our budget as special meetings, we can actually make a motion in those meetings for
Yeah.
it.
Special
That's what
meetings,
that's what
Instead
the
of a
city
work
does.
session.
The city does those as special meetings.
Yeah,
If they want to take a philosophy move on the budget, they can do that with a motion in that meeting.
as long as all members are there,
Yes.
as long as all members are there.
I
okay.
think you've technically done that in the past, because you've moved on budgets and then had the formal public hearing just before adoption.
Yes,
Yeah, so we only have, Charter Township only has to have one formal public hearing. But you've treated all of your work sessions as open meetings, you've posted them all. So you could take action during those meetings.
if they're special meetings.
Yeah.
So we do need to have some discussion, whether you want it in a work session or during a regular meeting, it doesn't matter to me, but some kind of discussion on the stormwater, and maybe you want to wait, leave it as it is, and wait until next year, and have a philosophical discussion on what to do with that. Or we can direct the manager to go ahead and
Actually-
just come up with that money and move it, or,
Actually, the stormwater question is more of a legal question that you could do anytime.
Yes.
as far as moving the money, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying if
You just have to look at the ordinance.
whether we're gonna start funding that idea, that project.
First of all, we have to say either yes or no on the project. and
That's what I mean.
Figure out
We
what
need
we're
to
gonna do.
decide what.
I would say
What we
no.
wanna do going forward. So if we can determine how much money, first of all, I've got that under Randy's, things to do. Or Kurt, whichever. Find out, what happened between 2004 and 2009, how much money we're looking at. And do we need a legal opinion on whether we can pay it back?
I think your question your first question is to review the ordinance that was adopted and determine if the ordinance is still valid. If not, then you rescind the ordinance and put the money back in wastewater. If the ordinance, if you want to go forward with the ordinance, then you would have to modify the ordinance in whatever manner you choose to do it. I mean, you could take that 121,000, whatever it is, and you could finance ditching. I mean, you know, that's stormwater. So I think the first thing to do is to look at the ordinance that was adopted in 2004 that established it, and see what the parameters are, and see if you're still in favor of that. And if not, then either modify or rescind the ordinance, and go from there.
You're thinking that the loan went as part of an ordinance issue?
Not alone, it was a capture from the wastewater and put into
Oh.
stormwater in 2004, as I believe,
I'm
and
sorry
looking
if
at
I
what we
missed
just
that.
had, I think it was by ordinance. You adopted a stormwater ordinance.
Okay.
So I think that needs to be looked at to see what the parameters were in that ordinance. Not you, I'm saying you know, collectively as all boards, basically, but the board at the time adopted a stormwater ordinance that had provisions in it. If those provisions are no longer valid, then maybe the ordinance needs to be either revised or totally rescinded and shelved, basically.
Okay.
You know, the portion of it that requires developers to provide for controlling their own runoff, that has to remain. But there are maybe sections of that that set up a stormwater plan that you're not going to follow, so take that out, you know, rescind it.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I think that answers the question about what happens with the money.
I think on wastewater, the justification for the increase in that overall, because if you go back to the minutes from the wastewater that we received in the last packet, they're 166% above their revenue, percent over their revenue. So I'd like to know where that dollars that projecting here that we're gonna have to pay, where that's going. And then,
Well, the city just had a 25% increase in wastewater. too.
I'm not worried about the city at this point in time.
No,
The
but it
city's,
will trickle to us.
you know,
We all pay the same rate. The rate is shared by everyone. It's not based on percentages. So if one rate changes, they all have to change. End of discussion.
Well, if you looked at the general fund, you'd see how much the lights went up. That's due to their increases, projected increase.
But their revenue went up 166% as of through the end of August. And their yearly is, I think, their year is up in October.
Yeah, they're finished.
PLP?
Yeah, no, it's wastewater. Wastewater went up 166% above their revenue and that. So where's that dollars going and how does that affect us and our payments to them?
Maybe it's their pension too.
I don't know what it is. No,
Well,
that's revenue. That's
On their
different.
side, on
That's
their
You'd have to
revenue.
find out what the rate is.
Yeah.
The rate is what we all share, the same rate.
Their revenue is going up that much. Maybe that rate has to be adjusted somehow or other. I don't know. But that just jumped out at me when I started reading their minutes and that.
All
I
right,
won't ask any more questions.
we'll see what we have by Tuesday, then we can schedule whatever you want to do. If you want to do special meetings or start the actual budget discussions, think
You'd be
about it.
further ahead to get right into the budget
I
work
think so,
sessions.
because this seems like it's kind of waste. I mean, it isn't because we got some of these written off.
Well, you got some information gathering, which I think we needed to do moving
Yeah.
forward. So I think our actual budget meetings, it should be special meetings, will go much quicker.
And these spreadsheets that
I
we're working
hope.
I
from,
don't think so.
the ones we're looking at, or I will hope to get, the breakdown of the $15 rate or, you know, whatever it is on wastewater, that and the debt spreadsheet, those all need to be part of the budget
Mhm.
packet all the time, every year, so we can see that and the change. And whether on the budget one, let's see, I don't have it in front of me again, closed it. The one that breaks down the debt of the $15, that should be columned out too. So we have 17, 18, 19. If the $15 stays, whatever that recommendation is for 18, what happens in 19, we need a few years spread out.
You talked about the paid off,
Yes, on the
paid
debt
off
side of
loan,
it.
how it's being reallocated.
And I know I have those spreadsheets, so I can tell you what I'm talking about. I can find them in my office. I thought I had them on here.
When we try to do, can we try to do that today? After this meeting, or
Sure.
you have to go?
No, that's all right.
Okay.
Building's still standing.
You hope.
Yeah. Stupid things. Somebody actually took our internet tower out of the outlet on the wall that feeds that side of the building and put it somewhere, or took it home or did something with it. So we have no internet on one side of the building.
You need a higher
Can you imagine?
clientele.
You need a camera down that hallway.
I'd have to camera the whole thing. I mean, this is kind of the crazy stuff I have to deal with today. Anyway,
I had enough for the day, that's it.
yeah, is this good?
No, I think
Play again
that's
on Tuesday?
That's a stretch.
Well, we know what we want. I'm hoping Kirk knows what we want. If there's a specific report or spreadsheet or something that you know that we need, that we didn't get updated, if you want to let me know or give it to them.
I'm not gonna give it to you again,
Okay.
So,
twice enough.
Because I know what I'm looking for. I know what I've got. Okay?
no public comment.
No public.
The only announcement I have to make is there'll be election meeting at 6:15 next Tuesday. Make sure can you make it, both of you guys?
6:15?
6:15 next Tuesday, election committee meeting. To approve election inspectors for the November election. Tuesday at 6.
15 minutes before the regular meeting.
Correct.
I wish all our meetings were that quick that you guys have.
Yeah, we're lucky.
That's why they get the big money.
You don't have me there asking questions.
Okay. Can we adjourn?
You adjourn it.
We're just
All
waiting for
right.
you.
2:46.